I'm one of the original members of the Devonport 4WD Club and a live member, and been asked to sort of give a bit of presentation and welcome you all here tonight on the club's 40th anniversary. So tonight we've got a couple of presentations going on, and some of the live members are going to present some live member trophies to some of the older guys that have been an integral part of the club over the years, some of the early members. So the proceedings tonight, where these are on around about 7ish, I think, Lyndon, isn't it? So really want you to just mingle and have a bit of a listen to some of the old stories that some of the club members can remember. But you know, in my time, I first started back in I think 1980 was my first membership, and the club started in around 1978, I believe. So, which will make it to 40 years, of course. So we've got a member with us tonight, Brian Templar, who will be one of the founding members, and David England, of course, who was one of the a little bit later coming on before I come on the scene. So he would have been probably the second oldest member here. And some of the history of the club, we started out with things like rallies was basically what we liked to do. We had our 4WD club trips like we always do, and we were a little bit less inhibited with what we could do because there was no parks that really sort of had any teeth, so everything was off limits. So if we wanted to go somewhere, we went. And some of the videos that you're probably seeing up there tonight, you know, some of those are quite strange, some of the older vehicles, and some of the tracks you probably won't even recognise because they're that far back in the scrub and grown over now and probably covered with trees from forestry operations that they don't exist. But you know, we did things like Black Bluff. That was our home territory. That was a pretty, in some of the vehicles, you know, when they didn't have dip locks or anything like that, it was quite a challenge. We all enjoyed it. It was a great camaraderie. We had quite a lot of members. I think we got up to about 60 members at one stage. Most of the members then decided that they wanted a bit more of a challenge, so we all decided, right, how can we do that? So we thought, well, let's have a rally. So we went out and had a bit of a look around. We thought, how can we run a rally? So we started off with tulips, you know, the tulip maps. That was a bit tame. So we thought, well, we really need a bit more serious. So we ended up having sort of a harder challenge. So the Devonport 4WD Club become, after a period of time, the club that had the hardest tracks. We certainly tried hard. We got everybody that we could around the nation to come to various events. We had the Bush Driver magazine come over in the early days. They were one of the prime magazine companies. They couldn't believe it. We left Dougie Walton Service Station, what we used to call it, which is next to Chris Palmer's Plumbing, and we were bogged at the back of the drive-in within 5 minutes. Because he writes in the magazine he's never seen such a thing. He said 65 years was all bogged behind the drive-in. He said, and then they got money bogged on the beach. He said, it took us all day. He said, we never even got to Wesley Vale. So, you know, that was the sort of thing we could get away with. It didn't last for long, mind you. The neighbours played up a bit. But however, it graduated on, and then the challenge came then that the daytime trips were probably a little bit getting overdone with, so we decided to do nighttime rallies. So that was a challenge in itself. So all the daytime rally was done of a night, and man, oh man, you know, like blokes were coming home about a day later because they got lost in the bush, the vehicles were broken down, no one knew where anyone was, CB radios only just worked, we didn't have UHFs. And the instructions were, you know, barely readable at the night because the light in the Land Cruiser, you couldn't even see your hand, let alone read anything. So we're out with torches and everyone's saying, well, where did you go? Oh, we went up here. Oh, we've been up there and they're all bald. So we'll go this way. So they like Brown's cows. You know, so a couple of days later, you know, we were presenting trophies. So it was good. Yeah, it's been a great journey and I've enjoyed it. I've made some great friends out of it and I just hope that it continues on. And it seems to be got a very good nucleus at the moment of representatives from the younger generation. So some of them, I see the little boys come along, they're only little whippersnappers, and you know, they're taken over from their fathers. I suppose they will, and like our kids did. So I just hope that you enjoy the night. And I'd like to pass over to Lyndon. Now, one little thing I must say tonight is Lyndon Kettle has done a fantastic job. If you have a look at all the placemats and all the stuff that's done, he's been the primary organiser, and I think he deserves a really good.
Right, I'm not going to stay here for long. I'm going to get up and have a bit more of a chat later. But we do have a couple of life memberships that we're presenting tonight, and I'm going to call upon all our life members that are here tonight, which is Brian, Peter Cosmetto and Bill and Cheryl Rockcliffe, to come up and present those. So yeah, Cosy, if you want to come on up and oh, a bit tight in there, isn't it?
Everyone had to pull their own bellies in, I reckon. Make a deep breath.
Well, I'll pass over to Cosy, and he's going to do our life membership presentations.
Well, it's great to see so many people here. This is absolutely terrific. You know, there's a lot of faces here that I do recognise and I don't recognise, but great turnout for the night. Actually, all the seats are full by the look of them, which is great. But to the main event of the night, we'll be presenting our new life memberships. Now, there's two founding members that have put a lot of energy into this club in the early days. They worked day and night relentlessly for this place, and we've got, like I said, two here tonight. So, David Ingram, could you please come up here, mate, please? And as well, we want Brian Templar up here too, please. Bring him round.
Got the hubs in right.
Put them through some dirt and chalk, I reckon. They were good old days, eh? Look, again,
we had some good days, didn't we?
Well, we had some great days, we did. We had a really huge effort by these two people here. Like I said, founding members. They started off and they worked day and night, as I said before, just relentlessly. They really got this club going in the early days. So, I'll ask you to give Bill the present. Yeah, that's for David.
That one for David.
Well done. Cheryl. Yeah.
Cheryl.
It's a much pleasure in presenting
No, it's
life
okay.
membership.
All right, David, you better just give us a bit of a...
I'm going to hand it back over to Brian. He's going to tell a few stories. David and Brian just have a few little quick words.
Yeah, well, we had a lot of fun. We made our own fun. There was just a few of us, but it was, well, I suppose now you look back at it, it was a bloody challenge, but not in those days it wasn't. We just done it, you know what I mean? And we had no one to tell us we couldn't do it or all of that crap, so things went easy, you know. We could make it to suit itself. Yeah. So, but I've enjoyed my times with the four-wheel drive, I suppose. All of us are here, because we like it, don't we? And
Yeah,
that's what makes it.
that's right.
Yeah. So, no, well, thank you very much.
I just like to back Brian up. It was fantastic days back then. I think today, unfortunately, you guys just haven't got the freedom that we had back then.
Oh, we didn't know.
Because we worked in with the forestry, we'd go and pick the tracks out, we'd pick the muddiest, the worst tracks out we could find, and they'd okay them, and off we'd go. Well, today I think you go out there and it's all boom goes. So I still believe that you guys had some good trips, and I believe you're off to Simpson Desert next year, which we absolutely really look forward to that, because that'll be fantastic. And I just wish the club all the best in the future. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
So I can remember one funny story. We used to go out and have a lot of rallies, but we used to always take something to keep us, what we call it, not inebriated, lubricated. So unfortunately, in the day when I used to go, we used to take half a dozen beers with us, and David was a little bit less interested in having a drink than we were, and he just used to say, look, you boys, you're drinking too much beer. He said, you shouldn't be taking so many bottles of beer on this trip. I said, well, what do you reckon's a fair thing? You know, what would we take? And he said, I reckon you ought to drop it back. Well, how much do you reckon we ought to drop it back to? He said, well, I reckon you should take half a dozen. Half a dozen. Okay, well, half a dozen it is. So we agreed on half a dozen, and Brian pops up and he says, that's big bottles you're talking about. Yeah, so right, yeah, that's big bottles.
Well, that's actually in the minutes.
So no, good times, and yeah, I really appreciate Brian coming along tonight. It's been a bit of an effort for him and Robin to get him here, but you know, you can't go and let those sort of things go unnoticed. So appreciate everyone for giving him a hand, and I hope he has a good life and enjoy it. David Ingram goes, and David was the secretary, and you know what the secretary's job nobody wants to do. No one. We fought tooth and nail not to get it. We used to put his hand up. You know, he'd try and hold his hand down.
There's always a sucker, isn't there?
Yeah, always a sucker. But without David, you know, it makes the job that much more difficult. And he took it on tooth and nail and did it for a lot of years, didn't he, David?
Well, I did it for a lot of years and enjoyed it, but also had a lot of backup too from the other members. It wasn't just me, it was all the other members backed me up and suggested things and did things. So it was a combined effort, not a great effort.
Used to push us hard to get a newsletter out, didn't you? We used to have a lot of a trip report, newsletters.
Yeah.
So it was all a good effort on your behalf.
Very important part of the club, the newsletters. It gets the information out to everyone, and then someone who's not coming along will sit down and read it and think, oh, geez, what the bloody hell was I doing? I missed that. Why wasn't I there?
That's true.
All right, well, thanks very much, and we'll pass it back to you, Lyndon.
Yeah, no worries. A couple of things that I forgot to pass on to Cozzy about. I've just got a couple of years there, just for a bit of background. Brian was the club president in 1979 and committee member in 83. This is from what I can make out of the books. And David was treasurer 80, 81, and then secretary 82 through to 86. And if you have a look through some of these books over here,
Wait on grey.
just about every letter in all those books over there's got David Ingram's signature on the bottom. So he spent a lot of time doing a lot of that sort of stuff. But anyway, we're going to have a tea's going to be served about 7 o'clock. And then we've got a few other things. We've got the Lucky Door Prize. I'm going to get up and have a bit more of a rattle on, and we're going to do a raffle as well later. So if you see, we might send the kids out with some raffle tickets later, and you better work out a prize. All right. Enjoy. We'll interrupt you night again a bit later.
Thanks, man. Well done.
Take the 1998, I think, we went for a trip from Todd's Corner to Elizabeth Bay. Tried to drive around the edge of the lake, but the lake was too high. It was up in top of the scrub, and Shane and I just had it wasn't brand new, but we hadn't had a bothered 80 series Land Cruiser. Shane had got out to go and help somebody else out, and I had to turn the Land Cruiser around. When I did, I ran up over a rock and damaged the vehicle. I jumped out, frightened Shane was going to kill me. Peter Holmes told me to get back into the vehicle. Shane wouldn't do anything to me, which he didn't. And then we kept going, and we had to be winched down between rocks and trees. Bill Rockcliffe had his six-wheeler there and winched us all down so that we could get down and get going out to Elizabeth Bay. That's about all I can remember.
Yeah, asked Lani about a Ring River track and a certain mud puddle that involved a bog hole that I was supposed to get through to, but a bow wave solved the problem.